It appears that CNN is crashing and burning. This is not
Allah Akbar.
unwelcome news, I will say. But it's kind of been going downhill for a while now, ever since the beginning of the year. In fact, ever since Trump was booted out of office. And I thought I'd just go through the timeline of stuff that's been going on recently. So the first thing we've got here is this Fox News article talking about how since the beginning of the year, CNN ratings have been crashing, specifically in October. I imagine they're probably not looking any better now in December, but let's take a look through what they have to say here. So the liberal network shed a whopping 76% of its audience since January.
3/4 of CNN watchers.
Well, they were all just there for the Trump dunks, really, weren't they? That's all they were there for. And then he's out of office. It's like, well, it's not like they provide news coverage. So
no,
I'll go elsewhere.
Actually, I mean, what do they provide apart from Donald Trump dunks?
Highly partisan reporting.
Yeah.
There you go. So during the month of October, nearly every single program failed to average 1 million viewers, according to Nielsen data. This marks historic lows for the so-called most trusted name in news. I'm sure they gave themselves that name.
Yes.
The only two exceptions during the 31 days were the 90-minute Biden town hall, which still came in third place behind Fox News and MSNBC, averaging only 1.2 million viewers, and the 30-minute Cuomo primetime that aired immediately after with 1.1 million. CNN averaged a devastating 480,000 in total day viewership in October, a whopping 76% drop, blah, blah, blah. Fox News averaged 1.4 million and maintained its total day viewership from earlier this year, while MSNBC did that. So Cuomo primetime was CNN's most watched program in October, which does not amount to much since its beleaguered anchored Chris Cuomo reached an average of just 807,000 viewers, losing 8% of his audience in September. So it seems, just in general, to have been going on a very, very steady downward slope for the past year or so.
But they had that huge drop as well because, well, Donald Trump's not there, so...
Yeah, what am I watching these guys for? And they've also had a few other hits, so if we move along, we've covered this earlier on in the year on the podcast, obviously. Project Veritas have been doing the Lord's work and exposing lots of liberal news media for being the propaganda that it is. We had this one.
I want to see the salutes in the chats for Project Veritas. Actual kings.
Yes, they are.
Catch them.
Well, we'll be returning to Project Veritas before the end of this particular segment, so we'll see what else they've been doing. But obviously this one was more in particular, they were talking to the CNN technical director, Charlie Chester, who admitted, look at what we did. We, CNN, got Trump out. I'm going 100% to say it, and I 100% believe if it wasn't for CNN, I don't know that Trump would have gotten voted out. I came to CNN because I wanted to be part of that. Basically just saying that they are highly partisan propagandists, let's be perfectly honest, which isn't a particularly good look when you're trying to advertise yourself as an objective news source. I would certainly think so.
I mean, we've all known it for a long time, but it's lovely to have an admission.
Oh, yeah. And if we move along, you may have remembered just a second ago I mentioned that Chris Cuomo was the highest viewed program on CNN. Not anymore, because he's been fired for very specific reasons as well that don't really speak to much journalistic integrity.
Is he also very Italian, as his brother put it?
I would imagine so, but I mean that's not as important to this particular part of the story. So, yeah, we've got this BBC article. U.S. anchor Chris Cuomo has been fired by CNN for help that he gave his brother, ex-New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, while he was battling harassment allegations. Obviously, you and Carl covered that earlier this year.
Do you not get the Italian reference?
Yeah, no, I know. It's because he got all of the allegations that he was touchy-feely, and he was just like, I'm just Italian.
It's just Italian-American. Hey!
It's like, what are you going to do about it?
Wait. No, hang on, no. No. Like, every Italian is not a, serial harasser / rapist or something? What the hell are you saying?
Well, let's not go that far, but Europeans can be a bit weird, let's be fair. Let's be fair here.
They kiss when they meet. Anyway, moving on.
That's gay, bro. The decision came after CNN said that additional information had emerged over the extent of Chris Cuomo's involvement in his older brother's defense. Andrew Cuomo resigned in August after prosecutors said that he had harassed staff. Chris Cuomo, 51, said in a statement that he was disappointed and it was not how I wanted my time at CNN to end, I bet. He had worked for the network since 2013 and became one of its most recognizable news presenters and most recently leading CNN's coverage of the 2020 US presidential election, meaning in effect that he was the face of the propaganda machine, along with other hacks like Don Lemon and the other presenters that they have on there. A CNN statement said that that a respected law firm had been hired to investigate Chris Cuomo's efforts to help his politician brother fight allegations of sexual harassment. But while that review was happening, new information has come to light, leading to the network terminating his contract effective immediately. So they were already looking into him, and then some more stuff came out, and they were just like, okay, no, cut ties with this guy, get rid of him.
He may turn out to be an Italian.
We've got access to his birth records. You'll never guess what.
Keeps coming into the office and saying bobbity boopy. I don't know. Sorry, Italians. It's not you. It's the Cuomo brothers who have done this.
Yeah, we're just England. We're just English. We're just horribly xenophobic to everyone. Don't worry. Chris Cuomo had already been suspended by CNN on Tuesday after the extent of his behind-the-scenes efforts to help the scandal were revealed. So once again, obviously, he probably seemed to have had more involvement. Documents released by the New York Attorney General Letitia James on Monday showed that the younger Cuomo continuously pressed the governor's staff to let him play a larger role in his brother's defense. "You need to trust me," he texted Melissa DeRosa, his brother's secretary, in March, adding, "We are making mistakes we can't afford." He also pledged to contact other US media outlets to try and learn of other allegations that were forthcoming. So allegations that hadn't even come out yet, and he was like, "Hey, heard anything on the grapevine, guys? Got any info for me, lads? It might help my brother's case." So it doesn't really speak to much journalistic integrity, does it?
What does that even sound like?
I don't know.
Like, what's the conversation there? Hey, have you heard anything about this other woman my brother harassed?
Sure would be a shame if others were to find out about that, wouldn't it?
They'd be sleeping with the fishes, whoever read.
But yeah, so he's using his industry connections to try and get insider information so that Andrew could potentially head off any further allegations before they got into the public eye. Not particularly ethical, I think we can all agree. I mean, I can understand that it's his brother, and obviously he cares about his brother, but if you're a journalist trying to claim to be objective...
Sorry, I looked at the chat. It's a me, Molester Ario.
Got him!
Chat's funny.
But yeah, and these people are also constantly whining about Trump having been corrupt and colluding with other people. It's like, this isn't a good look if you're going to try and throw that out there. The Star anchor's dismissal will raise serious questions about journalistic standards in the US, more broadly, well, narrowly speaking, more about CNN, I would say. CNN's media correspondent Brian Stelter, another shining paragon of journalism, said that viewers need to be able to trust what they're hearing here on television. And when we're covering a sensitive story, even if it involves the family member of a colleague, I don't understand how they trust CNN to begin with, but okay. The Cuomo family has long been one of the most dominant dynasties in US politics. Andrew Cuomo, blah, 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 just talking about the family history there. But as a result of this, Cuomo's decided that he might sue, because that's a great tactic to go for.
See, this is, so a mate of mine mentioned to me, and it has to be done, someone in the right-wing book sphere needs to go to Cuomo and be like, book deal. Spill all the beans about CNN and the left and all the skeletons they've got in the closet, and you can have this book deal and a load of money.
Well, that's the thing as well, is that he did lose I've not included it in here, but he did lose a book deal because of all this coming out.
It's prime.
So there you go.
You know, any right-wing book publishers out there, I mean, there's a target for you right there.
It's free money, guys.
He must know where all the skeletons are buried.
Absolutely. He's been in the organisation for that long, and obviously his brother and the family involvement, he knows a lot more than we know he does. But it says, fired CNN host Chris Cuomo is set to sue the network if it balks at paying him the at least $18 million to cover what's left on his contract.
I mean, if you ever wondered why people on CNN are just open shills, $18 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, to be fair. But also, yeah, contracts should be legally binding and everything, but you kind of broke all of the... Well, not that I imagine most of the other journalists there haven't, but you did break all of the ethics and their rules. You probably broke elements of the contractual agreement in trying to help your brother in such a way, so I don't know that they owe him that money.
No,
let's be honest here. Yeah, he's hired lawyers and is preparing to file the lawsuit over the remainder of the 4-year contract he signed last year. His contract was reportedly $6 million annually, leaving $18 million and $20 million that he would be owed, sources said, adding that Chris would also likely to be seeking damages.
So I keep reading the chat. $18 million, that's a lot of pasta. Sorry.
God damn.
Just derailing.
Yeah. CNN has no intention of paying Cuomo a penny, an insider said. Shock, I know.
Pasta Man will be very sad.
He's going to be very sad indeed. Oh, mamma mia!
All right.
If he gets a settlement, there would be an uproar, the source added. Another source said that CNN has a standard morality clause in the contract that says if the employee does anything of disrepute, they can immediately be fired. The lawyer's stance even came ahead of a planned internal CNN probe into an unspecified, here's the Italian coming out, sexual misconduct allegation against Chris Cuomo that the network received last week, which dates to his time working for ABC News. Chris Cuomo's spokesman has insisted these apparently anonymous allegations are not true. I am aware that there's also, I don't know if it's the same allegations, but apparently he might have squeezed someone's bottom back in 2005 when he was working for a different network, so that might be coming through as well. So CNN obviously trying to distance themselves from him, but sadly for them, he was their top-rated and most viewed anchor. So
he was their poster boy.
Yeah, he was their poster boy. I even saw the cringiest thing ever the other day, which was Libs of TikTok posted it, where it's some guy who'd written a song about how his wife and his daughter love Chris Cuomo, and oh my goodness.
Cuomo sexuals.
Yes, he goes, oh my goodness, I think I might love Chris Cuomo as well. I think we should do a welfare check on those guys, let's be honest. But it's not all bad for CNN, because if we move along, they've got a Fox News anchor moving to them. They're having to poach Fox talent to replace people. So Chris Wallace has announced...
Okay. I knew Chris Wallace had left Fox News, but he's joining CNN.
Yeah, CNN Plus, apparently, yeah. Fox News anchor Chris Wallace, this is a CNN article, so you're going to be able to feel the cope coming through here.
Written by two known liars. I mean, Oliver Darcy, a man who spends all his life trying to go after Alex Jones, and then Brian Stelter, who just makes up conspiracies in his own head.
Yeah, you and Carl covered one of his things the other day, didn't you?
She was just like, just imagine if there's a coup. Therefore, we need to do a coup. I was like, Brian, are you ever...
This doesn't follow, sir. But yeah, one of the few high-profile news personalities who retained a reputation of integrity as Fox leaned hard into right-wing and conspiratorial programming, announced Saturday is departing the network and joining CNN Plus to host a weekday show. I know, right? It's pot calling the kettle black, isn't it, really? And you could feel the cope dripping off of it. Wallace made the stunning announcement of his departure at the end of a Fox News Sunday, the flagship weekly program he'd done since 2003. It's the last time, and I say this with real sadness, we will meet like this. He described his time as Fox as a great ride and said he was ready for a new adventure. Apparently, he'd also been very critical of Tucker Carlson and other such people in the more recent time, just because of the fact that he's not happy with all the stuff that they're saying, and it's like, I'm sorry, mate, Tucker's doing good work.
Yeah,
what are you going to do?
I do think Chris Wallace is one of the, let's say, older Fox News types. Like, I know he's been there for a long time. So it might be the difference in the Trump movement coming up, and then people.
Yeah, the difference between the establishment rhinos and the newer Trump.
Perhaps, but that's just speculation.
Potentially, that is speculation on our part. But then, whatever goodwill or good fortune they might get from getting this guy is about to be obliterated, because all of a sudden, if we move along, we got this announcement on Twitter from the FBI. Albany SAC statement regarding the arrest of CT resident John Griffin. And this is where things might get a little bit difficult to listen to because of the subject matter, so just warning you right there. Yeah, the arrest of John Griffin was a senior producer for CNN on Chris Cuomo's show. Not looking great. It says here the allegations are deeply disturbing. And let's go along to see what is going on. So if we move along, the FBI have arrested them, John Griffin, for allegedly inducing minors for sex and transporting them across state lines. So
this is a senior CNN producer
who worked for New Day, which was Chris Cuomo's flagship show.
Is a nonce.
Allegedly.
Right.
So far, the FBI have arrested them. So CNN suspended one of its staffers following a federal indictment accusing him of coercing parents to allow their minor daughters to engage in sexual activity at his home. John Griffin, who according to his LinkedIn profile is a senior producer for CNN's flagship morning program New Day, was arrested by the FBI after being charged by a grand jury in Vermont with 3 counts of using a facility of interstate commerce to attempt to entice minors to engage in unlawful sexual activity. And I will warn, just going on, it's going to go into a bit more description. This man is a degenerate, if this is all true, and it's absolutely disgusting. So, according to the indictment, from April to July of 2020, Griffin utilized the messaging applications Kik and Google Hangouts to communicate with people purporting to be parents of minor daughters, conveying to them, among other ideas, that a woman is a woman regardless of her age, and that women should be sexually subservient and inferior to men. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Vermont wrote in a statement on these communication programs. Griffin sought to persuade parents to allow him to train their daughters to be sexually submissive. In June of 2020, Griffin advised a mother of a 9 and 13-year-old daughters that the mother's responsibility was to see that her older daughter was trained properly.
Was he joining the Taliban? What is this?
It's disgusting. This honestly, anyone who's familiar with Lost Prophets will understand. This sounds a lot like the sort of stuff that Ian Watkins got arrested for. He was another guy who basically groomed the mothers to let him do whatever he wanted to the daughters and children. It's messed up stuff.
Yeah, but it's just his justification there, him saying, I need to train them properly, sounds like the Taliban, where they think oh no, they hit puberty, therefore it's fair game.
Well, we've not checked if he's converted recently.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, Griffin later transferred over $3,000 to the mother for plane tickets so the mother and her 9-year-old daughter could fly from Nevada to Boston's Logan Airport. To the Holy Land. The mother and child flew to Boston on July of 2020, where Griffin picked them up in his Tesla and drove them to his Ludlow house. At the house, the daughter was directed to engage in and did engage in unlawful sexual activity. Pretty gross stuff. So it carries on, he was doing some really nasty stuff, and it was all mostly taking place at this Ludlow ski house that he purchased through a LLC that he had with his wife. I don't know if she knows anything to do with all of this going on, but it's kind of weird that he has enough money to facilitate all of this sort of stuff. I mean, he's a senior producer, but it's kind of weird.
He's probably getting paid a lot by CNN, so...
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, It's all a bit weird. CNN themselves have an article about it if we move along. So they had an article basically just admitting that saying that they didn't know anything. He'd been working there with CNN for about 8 years, since 2013. The charges against Mr. Griffin are deeply disturbing, a spokesperson for the network said in a statement on Saturday. We only learned of his arrest yesterday afternoon and have suspended him pending investigation. CNN has not been able to identify an attorney for Griffin. Why they would want to protect him with these allegations, I don't know. According to an indictment filed on Thursday, Griffin allegedly paid for and kept an online profile on a BDSM dating fetish and kink site, which I think is what that Kick application was, for several years leading up to July 2020, when he allegedly wrote he was looking for women who were sexually submissive and open-minded. Pretty messed up stuff. And then if you go along, there's the Department of Justice report of it as well from the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Vermont. So the United States Attorney's Office emphasizes that an indictment contains allegations only and that Griffin remains presumed innocent until and unless he is convicted of a crime. On each count, Griffin faces a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years of imprisonment and a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. The indictment includes a notice that states the federal government intends to seek the forfeiture of Griffin's Ludlow house, his Tesla, Mercedes, and other property that was used in the commission of the charged offences. So it's all pretty nasty stuff, but we do have to make sure as well that we say that he is innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But knowing the left's track record on these things, I'm not holding out for an innocent verdict. I'm just not guilty verdict. I'm just saying
your prejudice is that.
Yeah, that's my personal prejudice. I've just looked into too much stuff to do with the left, so I'm not holding out much hope that he's innocent. I'm just going to say that. And if we move along, you can see as well Jack Posobiec's posting images of the two of them together, because obviously they did work together. It is important to point out with these sorts of things, this doesn't prove anything on Cuomo's part because they worked together for a very long time in a professional capacity. That does not necessarily mean that he was aware of any indecent behavior going on behind the scenes.
But I mean, if he is found guilty, I mean, you've got him trying to defend his brother who's doing gross stuff
obviously,
as well.
Cumulatively, this does not look great on Chris's part. No, it really doesn't. If we move along again, we've got this tweet. People are also coming up with some relatively conspiratorial things, and how did he manage to afford all of this when he's got a second home that he paid $1.8 million for? But at the same time, he's CNN senior producer.
Apparently CNN is pissing money, so...
I mean, if they're paying Chris that much, I can imagine they're paying him probably a good amount, seeing as he's the senior producer on their flagship show. So I wouldn't be that surprised if it was just his pay. But if we move along, there's also some facts about him from heavy.com. He bought the $1.8 million Vermont house listed in court documents with his wife in 2020 using an LLC. And then it also talks about his children, which I do not want to get into. Federal prosecutors said in court documents that Griffin and his wife bought the $1.8 million Vermont home in February 2020 using Griff Skis LLC, which was started that same month by Griffin and his wife, according to public records. I don't know why it was they bought this in the first place. I don't know if it was so that he would have a particular place to be able to take his victims, but that's the facts of the matter right there. If we move along as well, I also got up the average salary for a senior producer, typically 136 grand a year, but once again, he was the flagship senior producer, so who knows for certain. But this is also not the only thing that's been going on with CNN, because it turns out they might be even more of a hive of noncery than was first revealed there, because Project Veritas, bringing it back around again, has revealed that another paedophilia scandal involving a CNN producer has just emerged. Wednesday night, Project Veritas published graphic text and video of a CNN producer fantasizing about molesting his fiance's daughter. I think your face sums it all up there. According to the outlet, one text exchange featured the producer telling the source how his fiance's daughter was, and then I'm not going to read that part, it's quite disgusting. CNN producer also allegedly solicited sexually explicit photos of the source's underage daughter. The messages and videos were allegedly obtained by a woman who was involved in a relationship with the CNN producer for over a decade, Janine Benani, a case manager for human trafficking victims, as well as those of domestic violence and sexual assault. The source claimed to have obtained the information for authorities, but contacted Project Veritas when she was worried that action might not be taken. The source told the outlet that she felt disgusted and felt the need to come forward because these people with power seem to get away with it, which, generally speaking, holds up.
Hang on. He's a nonce, right? Or alleged nonce. Mm-hmm. And he got in a relationship with a woman who deals with human trafficking.
By the sounds of it, I don't know if her career coincided with their relationship. Maybe the relationship with him is what led her into that career.
I don't know, but what the...
I don't know, but just to point out as well that to protect the children, Project Veritas is not yet releasing information about anyone involved in the story, including the producer. So, obvious reasons.
So they'll just take it to the FBI or whatever instead.
Yeah, presumably.
Here you are, boys.
Yeah, not that they've got a particularly great relationship with the FBI currently, but we'll see how all that goes. But generally, all in all, this whole picture is painting a very, very bad image of CNN at the moment, and they're crashing and burning. And to be honest, I'm more than happy to watch this den of potential pedos and misinformation die.
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible institution.
Absolutely.
The thing that reminds me most of it, because people remember back in the day when it was something else, there's a wonderful advert they published in like the 2000s when Bush was in office. Of course, they're opposing him. And it's like, this is an apple. Some people might tell you it's an orange, but this is an apple. Saying orange, orange, orange doesn't change that it's an apple. It's like you compare that to their coverage of, let's say, trans rights.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, yep, it's a short skip to do the change they have come into. So it's not even like they, I don't know, have always been this way or something, but they've destroyed themselves and good.
Yeah. They're Sideshow Bob walking into the rakes over and over and over again, and they've set them for themselves. So, good job, CNN.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go over to lotuseaters.com to subscribe to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this video, which is a chat me and Carl had about Eric Zamore's blockbuster speech, which was a speech he gave before he even ran for president, and is very, very good. You want to enjoy it. And if you'd like to keep up with our updates about what's coming out, you can always follow us on getter.com and follow us at lotuseaters_com. Thank you and goodbye.